Our top story tonight on Gravitas focuses on the Russia-Ukraine war as Russian drones devastate the Ukraine warfront before the Putin-Trump crucial talks. We join the dots for you to get you the bigger picture and how crucial the timing is. Also on the show for you tonight, we tell you all about the mystery behind the Washington air crash. More questions than answers. This is a story you do not want to miss. As Iran becomes a regional power with increase in air missile offense capability, we tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about the Russia-Ukraine war entering a dangerous new phase. Amid the impending talks between the US President Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, Russian forces are pressing forward on multiple fronts while Ukrainian defenses are being tested like never before, both in the air by Russian drones and on the ground by the Russian troops. And the stakes have never been higher. In fact, just earlier today, a Russian drone struck a multi-story apartment building in the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy. The impact was devastating, to say the least. The local governor, in fact, saying 4 people lost their lives, 9 others were injured, including a child. Ukrainian emergency teams rushed to the scene, pulling survivors from the rubble and recovering the dead. But Sumy was not the only target. Overnight, Russia launched a massive drone assault on Ukraine, sending 81 drones into the skies. Ukraine claims they managed to intercept 37 of them, while 39 failed to hit their targets. Despite Ukraine's efforts to shoot down the attack, homes and businesses across the country reportedly suffered significant damage. On social media, Zelensky condemned the strikes in Sumy, calling them yet another terrible Russian crime, quote-unquote, urging the world to maintain pressure on Moscow. But as the war drags on, international support for Ukraine is being tested. Military aid is slowing down. Ammunition stockpiles are running low. And Ukrainian forces are reportedly in a more defensive stance. And that shift on the battlefield, you see, is becoming clear. In eastern Ukraine, Russian troops claim to have seized control of the settlement of Novoyelizavetovka in Donetsk. Moscow's defense ministry says Russian servicemen raised their flag over the town and launched multiple attacks on Ukrainian positions. At the same time, Ukraine says its forces repelled several Russian assaults in the Kursk region, where more than 90 battles reportedly took place over the past 24 hours. Ukraine's military says it struck key Russian targets, including ammunition depots, oil refineries, and a missile storage facility. The strikes reportedly caused an oil leak and fire at the Andreypol oil pumping station, while explosions were reported at the missile storage facility in Russia's Tver region. Social media footage showing Russia's Kostovo plant burning after debris from a Ukrainian drone sparked a fire overnight. In Russia's Belgorod region, a Ukrainian drone attack reportedly struck a residential home, killing a woman and her 2-year-old child. 2 others were wounded in the blast. Russia's defense ministry claims its air defenses intercepted 104 Ukrainian drones overnight, 104, and the missile exchanges are not letting up. Russia reportedly launched an Iskander-M ballistic missile overnight. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Odessa region, home to key port infrastructure, came under fresh Russian attack, with buildings reportedly damaged in the strikes. Meanwhile, local Russian reports stated that Russian forces have gained control over most of Chasiv Yar, a key eastern Ukrainian stronghold. While Kiev or Moscow have not officially confirmed this, Russian media claims Ukrainian troops have retreated to the outskirts of the city. If true, this could mark a major turning point in the war. You see, Chasiv Yar is not just another battlefield. It sits on a strategic hilltop in the Donetsk region and has reportedly been under relentless Russian attack for nearly a year. As per reports, Ukrainian defenders, once firmly entrenched, are now struggling to hold their ground. Manpower shortages, dwindling Western military support are taking their toll, allowing Russian forces to tighten their grip in a way. If Chasiv Yar falls completely, the consequences for Ukraine will be severe. It is reportedly the last major defensive position standing between Russian forces and the crucial urban centers of Kostiantynivka, Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, cities that Moscow has long set its sights on. And losing this stronghold could reportedly open the doors for deeper Russian advances into eastern Ukraine. The war, you see, has escalated far beyond traditional battlefields. The war between Russia and Ukraine is far from over, clearly. With each passing day, the violence in fact grows more intense. The front lines seem to shift and the toll rises. The question now is, how much longer can Ukraine hold the line, and can diplomatic solutions stop the war from spiraling out of control? As of now, diplomacy is moving on multiple fronts. Putin, in fact, said he is ready to talk to Ukraine, but without Zelensky, while Trump said he is ready to talk to Putin. That's not all. The Kremlin said Putin is ready to hold a phone call with Donald Trump, but Moscow is waiting for word from Washington that it is ready as well. There is clearly a lot going on. And how quickly all of this actually unfolds or unravels is anyone's guess. Shifting focus, our next story is about the massive mystery behind the Washington plane crash. You must have come across those visuals. Rescue and diving teams worked through the night in the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. at the site of Wednesday's deadly collision of a passenger jet and a military chopper. 28 dead bodies were pulled out. Officials saying hopes of finding survivors in the freezing water are now over. Our next report telling you more.
Black Jack 3, can you return to base? I need you to land immediately. LA 32, if you want to shut them down or if you want to go back to gate, let me know. I don't know if we're going to resume operations. There was a collision on the person to 33.
8:48 late evening on Wednesday. That's when American Airlines Flight 5342 collided with a Black Hawk military helicopter about 300 feet over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. The passenger jet from Kansas with 64 people on board was minutes away from landing at the Reagan International Airport. The Black Hawk chopper had 3 personnel on a training flight. The U.S. Capitol had seen nothing like it before, human error leading to horrific tragedy.
I hear the bang bang, a very unusual sound, something you don't hear on a daily basis. It's more like on a war zone, something you hear on movies, action. So that caught my attention. I looked up the sky, I looked up the window, and all I could see at that moment was just smokes from the south side of Reagan Airport.
Both aircraft plummeted into freezing cold water. Emergency services from multiple agencies moved in as alarms were triggered. Rescue teams worked through the night in extreme cold conditions. Diving teams scoured the site. Helicopters from law enforcement agencies from across the region flew over the scene in a methodical search for bodies.
Despite all those efforts, we are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
So where did the calculations go wrong? Who's to blame? Detailed inquiries to come will reveal much in days to come. The Pentagon chief voiced shock. He's ordered a thorough investigation. The American Airlines chief expressed deep condolences. What a terrible night this has been, President Donald Trump wrote on his social media. Trump blamed the helicopter and also the control tower for not passing the right instructions. He termed it a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Experts think the military helicopter did not have its tracking system turned on. So another device, the traffic collision avoidance system fitted to all military and commercial aircraft, did not kick in as the two aircraft came close.
It's quite possible that this training flight of this Black Hawk helicopter was a covert style training mission of going black, if you like, and not having any electronic tracking turned on, and a tragic error of doing this around an airport, an active airport. I mean, if they're going to do that sort of training, it should be done well away from an active airport, like Reagan National.
As authorities and families of those in the two aircrafts go about picking up the pieces, some grim realities stare. US media reports say several members of the US and global figure skating community were on the ill-fated passenger jet from Kansas. The Kremlin too stepped in to condole a human tragedy.
Мы, к сожалению, видим, что эти печальные данные подтверждаются. Там были и другие наши сограждане. Плохие новости сегодня с Вашингтона. Мы сожалеем и соболезнуем родным и близким, которые потеряли тех, кто из наших сограждан.
The pain of innocent civilian lives cut off in a blink and wounds for family and friends for a lifetime. Bureau Report, WION World The World.
Concern is rising in India that China is turning the Pakistani port of Gwadar across Aden and Red Sea into a virtual military base with the opening of a new airport. China already has troops in Balochistan on the pretext of protecting its citizens from attacks by terrorists. But the exact size of the PLA presence in the region is a secret. As was predicted by China watchers and specialists, Beijing is using the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, in many areas to strengthen its military capability. With the Indian Navy patrolling in the Red Sea, this is an obvious cause of concern for New Delhi. The international Chinese military buildup also reflecting the Chinese ambition to become an alternative superpower to the US across strategic areas, economic growth, and scientific innovation. America has over 800 military bases across the world and has been a long-term military patron of Pakistan. The newly inaugurated airport in Balochistan has been branded a donation by the Chinese Communist Party's mouthpiece, Global Times. While Pakistan hailed it as a shining symbol of friendship with China, analysts suggest the move is expected to bolster the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, the biggest project under the BRI. But is this a cause of concern for India over Beijing's potential military presence in the region? Last week, a Pakistan International Airlines, or a PIA aircraft, landed at the new airport, which was inaugurated in October by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Chinese Premier. On January 20, the airport started its commercial operations. What's unique about the airport? Why is it significant? Well, the $230 million state-of-the-art airport spanning 430 acres in southwestern Pakistan, is reportedly the largest airport built in the country. Going by the scale of the project and the investment involved, one would imagine it to be quite a big deal. It is in fact central to China's CPEC project worth $65 billion US. And why is that? As China wants to develop Gwadar into a pivotal trade and transport hub. What it does not say or advertise is that the airport enables China to escalate its military presence in the region. You see, China has had its eyes on Gwadar for a long time. In fact, the Gwadar port is a main feature of the CPEC and key to the BRI project, and the China Overseas Port Holding Company plans to expand the port by constructing 9 new multi-purpose berths along 3.2 kilometers of seafront to the east of the existing ones. And what's more, Gwadar port is also poised to serve as an alternative shipping route to the Malacca Strait, which is frequently patrolled by the US, which opens China's doors to West Asia, a move that is supposed to have strategic and economic implications. And considering the dire strait of Pakistan's economy and its status as a client state of China, Pakistan is not capable of exercising any independence. It has no option but to kowtow to China's plans, in which Pakistan is a surrogate for larger ambitions. Pakistan has even kept quiet on issues about Pakistan's territorial sovereignty. It has no option, for it has been caught in a classical debt trap which China uses for strategic advantage. And what will it mean for India and for its national security? Experts say this might raise maritime security concerns for India. And so India needs to keep a close watch on the activities unfolding there and be on its guard. Our next story is from West Asia. Specifically, it's about Iran. The country is ramping up its military power with tensions remaining high in the region. Tehran is pushing forward with arsenals designed to counter threats from the United States and Israel. As its traditional allies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and even Syria face their own set of challenges, Iran is stepping up its game. Let's just tell you about Iran's new weapons that could reshape the region's balance of power. First is the Gaza drone. Iran's largest ever drone, named after the war-ravaged Palestinian enclave. The Gaza drone is a super heavy unmanned aircraft with a 22-meter wingspan and a takeoff weight of over 3,000 kilograms. It can carry up to 12 bombs, significantly enhancing Iran's airstrike capabilities. The IRGC commanders, in fact, claim it will boost border security and strengthen Iran's aerial dominance with an operational range exceeding 1,000 kilometers and a flight time of 35 hours. The drone can cover vast distances and is capable of speeds up to 350 kilometers per hour, making it well suited for both surveillance and combat missions. Iran is, by the way, also expanding its naval power. It recently launched its first ever signals intelligence ship, the Zagros. Unlike conventional warships, this vessel is built for electronic warfare and cyber surveillance. As per reports, the Zagros is equipped with advanced sensors capable of intercepting enemy communications, monitoring electronic activities, and gathering military intelligence. In fact, Iran's Navy commander called it, quote-unquote, the watchful eye of Iran's Navy, underlining its importance in Tehran's strategic calculations. And with this move, Iran is not just defending its waters, it is preparing to disrupt enemy operations in the Persian Gulf and beyond. And you see, Tehran is not stopping there. The Iranian army recently added 1,000 domestically produced drones to its arsenal, distributing them across different combat units. These drones have an operational range of over 2,000 kilometers, putting Israel and US bases in West Asia well within striking distance. Equipped with highly destructive payloads, low radar visibility, and autonomous navigation systems, these drones can reportedly operate without external control, making them harder to intercept. Iran has also introduced the Rezwan drone, a suicide drone designed for precision strikes. According to reports, it is similar to Russia's Lancet and Israel's Hero drones, both of which have been used and proven in battle. Rezwan is reportedly designed for quick deployment and high-precision targeting, even in complex combat environments. It is reportedly launched from a cylindrical tube and transmits live video to its operator, ensuring accurate strikes on enemy positions. Iran is signaling, basically, that it is adopting modern warfare tactics, using technology inspired by some of the world's most advanced military forces. Tehran is making it clear its drones are not just for defense, they are built for war. And beyond new weapons, Iran is also preparing for war or war-like situations. It has launched a 2-month-long military exercise focusing on defending key nuclear facilities, including Natanz, against simulated drone and missile attacks. This move is a direct response to Israel's repeated threats to strike Iran's nuclear sites. The drills reportedly aim to test Iran's missile defense systems and rapid response capabilities, making it clear that Tehran is both expecting and preparing for any kind of conflict. Also, by the way, these developments come in the backdrop of 2 IDF reservists being arrested for allegedly selling classified military intelligence to Iranian handlers. One suspect, a former member of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense unit, is in fact accused of handing over critical data, including footage of Iron Dome interceptions. He reportedly made contact with an Iranian handler last September. And then on October 1, Iran launched a massive ballistic missile attack on Israel, firing over 180 missiles. Some of these hit sensitive Israeli military sites. Was Iran's attack fueled by stolen intelligence? That's the big question Israeli investigators are now scrambling to answer. And the thing is, Iran's aggression is not just about new weapons. It's also about big money. Remember, last October, the Iranian government announced a 200% increase in its military budget, signaling a major shift towards military expansion. Tehran is openly preparing for confrontation, reinforcing its military against Israel, the United States, and regional adversaries. And with Hamas and Hezbollah weakened by the ongoing conflicts, Iran is arming itself to prevent any potential power vacuum. And amid all this, Iraq has reportedly offered to mediate between Iran and the United States. That's right. The Iraqi foreign minister made this statement at the recently held World Economic Forum in Davos, stating that Baghdad is ready to facilitate talks if requested. But the question is, will Tehran and Washington even sit at the table? That remains uncertain as of now. But you see, Iran is taking no chances. It is in fact doubling down on its military build-up and not relying on diplomatic resolutions. It is building deadlier drones, upgrading its naval surveillance, and adding thousands of unmanned war machines to its arsenal. As its traditional allies have weakened in a way, Tehran is taking direct control of the battlefield. Iran's message to West Asia and beyond is quite clear. Tehran is ready to protect its interests, assert its dominance, and challenge adversaries. US President Donald Trump is changing the game, and how? Tech giants are falling in line, it seems. The balance of power is shifting. The American president has secured a $25 million settlement from Meta, marking a rather unprecedented victory over big tech's most formidable player in a way. Meta in the settlement will not admit wrongdoing over the suspensions of Trump's accounts. And according to reports, the lion's share of the settlement, a whopping $22 million, will fund Trump's presidential library. In fact, the settlement represents more than just financial compensation. It signals a seismic shift in the relationship between political power and social media dominance. Meta's chief, Mark Zuckerberg's recent trips to Mar-a-Lago, including a dinner and reportedly a full day of mediation, underscore this dramatic reversal. On Wednesday, Meta reported its net income soared by 59% to $62.36 billion for the full year. Meta is one of the world's biggest companies with a market valuation of $1.665 trillion. And such a tech giant does not want to keep the White House angry, and that's not all. Zuckerberg has expressed support for Donald Trump. He has tweaked Meta's policies to lift restrictions on some content within the company's apps, which include Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and WhatsApp. These developments coming after Meta's complete lifting of restrictions on Trump's social media accounts in July 2024. Twitter reinstated Trump in 2022 after Elon Musk's takeover. YouTube followed in 2023, a move that preceded his return to the presidency. The timing is particularly significant given that these same platforms had banned him following the January 6 Capitol events of 2021. Corporate America appears to be scrambling to make amends. In December, ABC News agreed to pay a $15 million settlement payment to resolve a defamation lawsuit brought by Trump, stemming from on-air comments about him made by a top anchor. While other media giants watch nervously from the sidelines, this wave of settlements marks a stark departure from Trump's previously mixed record in litigation, suggesting a fundamental shift in corporate America's approach towards the president. Even as Meta maintains its stance of no wrongdoing, the symbolism of Zuckerberg's personal involvement in negotiations speaks volumes. The tech mogul's multiple visits to Mar-a-Lago, coupled with Meta's $1 million inaugural fund contribution, painting a picture of a tech industry rapidly recalibrating its relationship with presidential power. Imagine going off on a trip for a few days, but getting stranded for months. Would you feel abandoned? And what if your return keeps getting pushed? And what if this is no ordinary trip to some part on planet Earth? Imagine getting stuck in space for months. Why are we asking these questions? Well, you would know by now that NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore have been stranded in space. They were launched to the International Space Station aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft in June 2024. And they have been stranded there ever since. Let's just tell you at this point what the US President Donald Trump has said. Quote unquote, I have just asked Elon Musk and SpaceX to go get the two brave astronauts who have been virtually abandoned in space by the Biden administration. They have been waiting for many months. Elon will soon be on his way Hopefully, all will be safe. Good luck, Elon, quote unquote. Basically, President Trump has expressed that frustration with the Biden administration's handling of the situation. As you can see, Musk shared Trump's post with an emoji. In this tweet now on your screen, Musk said, I'm quoting, "The president has asked SpaceX to bring home the 2 astronauts stranded on the space station as soon as possible. We will do so. Terrible that the Biden administration left them there so long," quote unquote. Now, just for context here, in case you were not aware, Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore are still in space because of a massive delay in their return mission. How did that even happen? It's quite a story, one that has seen several twists and turns, not pleasant ones. They were originally scheduled to return aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft after completing their mission on the International Space Station, but that seems like a century ago. Issues with the Starliner spacecraft, including technical delays, have meant that they continue to be in space. With SpaceX now stepping in to help bring them back to Earth, it's a rather ironic twist in the tale. This was Boeing Starliner's debut piloted flight, supposed to be considered as an operational alternative to SpaceX's Crew Dragon. Well, and after the Starliner's propulsion system faced those issues, on August 24, NASA decided to bring back the Starliner under remote control. But what about Williams and Wilmore? They were left aboard the station for an extended stay, and that extended stay has felt never-ending. In fact, NASA has reacted after Trump asked Musk to rescue Sunita Williams. Here's what NASA said. NASA and SpaceX are expeditiously working to safely return the agency's SpaceX Crew 9 astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore as soon as practical, while also preparing for the launch of Crew 10 to complete a handover between expeditions, quote unquote. The astronauts are expected to return with the Crew 9 mission at the end of March 2025 after completing nearly 300 days in space. No wonder the extension of their stay has been viewed as a cruel joke by critics. What happens now? Musk's statements have triggered questions about the immediate plans for the astronauts' return. Watch this space for more answers from space about the return of these 2 stranded. Our next story is from Bangladesh, and before we go any further, here's a question. Is Yunus-led Bangladesh showing Taliban-like traits and turning into Pakistan? The reason why we're asking that question is because on Wednesday, a women's football match in Bangladesh was cancelled after Islamist hardliners staged protests. Now, this is the second such incident in the last few days, by the way. But what really prompted this move? Reports say hundreds of protesters, including Islamic school students and teachers, marched towards the venue in opposition to women's participation in football, calling it un-Islamic, so much so that the event organizers had to cancel the event altogether. Now, do you sense a pattern here, or rather a similarity with the Taliban in Afghanistan, which has barred women from playing sports? The similarity with the Afghanistan women's cricket team is too glaring to be missed in a way. And this, by the way, is just one of many cases where women fear reprisal of Taliban rule, termed as aggressive and draconian in its own right. And this is also not just a one-off incident of Bangladesh cracking down on gender rights. Last year, a controversy broke out in Bangladesh over changes to second-grade Bangla textbooks. sparking anger among gender equality supporters. And why is that? As per Bangladesh's leading newspaper, the Dhaka Tribune, the 2024 edition of a publication included a story on household chores, which showed both boys and girls sharing household responsibilities. Many hailed it as a modern approach that challenged traditional gender roles. However, in the 2025 edition, the story flipped completely, as these tasks have been given mostly to female characters. The message, in a way, is that of enforcing old-fashioned stereotypes. One can expect such moves from the Taliban that barred women from universities, parks, sports, raided the homes of female athletes. Now, some of these draconian measures have also crept into neighboring Pakistan. But when it comes to Bangladesh, one would not usually expect such a picture of gender bias, because this country was formed based on linguistic divides, not on gender biases. But is the reality different from expectations? According to the 2022 Labour Force Survey, women in Bangladesh spend 8 times more time on unpaid care work than men, and only 42% of working age women are part of the labour force. Those who work face a large gender wage gap, and just 13% of women own land. Under Yunus's watch, critics see things as getting worse in days to come, as he is increasingly adapting a Taliban-like model to govern. How far can he actually go to changing things? We'll have to wait and watch. Shifting focus for now, asteroids are cosmic time bombs. They can wipe out entire species. But what if they also created life? Our next story explains more about a groundbreaking discovery from asteroid Bennu, now shaking our understanding of life's origins.
In the vast expanse of space, asteroids have long been viewed as harbingers of destruction, capable of unleashing planetary devastation. In some mythologies, these celestial vagabonds are linked to good fortune, but for scientists, they have long been an object of mystery. Yet these celestial wanderers may hold the key to humanity's most profound question: how did life begin? In a groundbreaking discovery, NASA's asteroid samples have revealed an extraordinary truth that challenges our understanding of existence itself. The 121.6 grams of dust and pebbles retrieved from asteroid Bennu, the largest cosmic haul ever collected beyond the moon, have yielded staggering evidence that these space rocks may have seeded Earth with life's fundamental ingredients.
The samples delivered by the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft from near-Earth asteroid Bennu contain salts that formed in a liquid environment like a lake or maybe even an ocean, and organic molecules that are central to all life on Earth.
In the early solar system, planets including Earth and various moons were pelted by asteroids and other space debris that carried water and chemicals, including organic compounds. Organic compounds have one or more carbon atoms that are bound to other elements, usually hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. All life on Earth is based on carbon and is built from organic compounds, including the amino acids used to create proteins and nucleobases.
We've thought for a while that the water on Earth certainly could have come from an asteroid, because we've seen water for a long time. This is telling us that not just the water, but some of the building blocks of life actually were seeded onto Earth and other planets. It wouldn't have been limited to just Earth.
If one small sample holds so many secrets, one can only imagine that how much more is there to learn. Now, by studying these asteroid samples from the early solar system, scientists say they gain insight into our own origins. How did life on Earth originate? And also, what is the likelihood that there is life elsewhere in our solar system? like on Mars, moons of Jupiter and Saturn.
Civil war has pushed Sudan into a grim humanitarian crisis. Sudanese armed forces and paramilitary rapid forces are engaged in a bitter conflict triggered after a military coup following the ouster of long-time ruler. 50% of Sudan's population is in need of humanitarian assistance, with the country facing extreme shortages of food, water, medicine and fuel. Over 25.6 million people are facing acute food insecurity, while 8.5 million people are lacking access to food and basic needs. Combined with the violence and uncertainty, this has triggered an unprecedented migrant crisis in the country. Over 11.5 million people have been displaced so far. And this, by the way, includes over 8.5 million people displaced within Sudan, while 3 million people fled to neighboring countries. Egypt is hosting the largest number of Sudanese refugees, followed by South Sudan, Libya, Uganda, Ethiopia. Several attempts at peace talks led by the US and Saudi Arabia have failed to yield a solution to the conflict. Sudan's military and its allies are making advances in rebel rapid support forces controlled areas, dealing a major blow to the paramilitary group. Sudanese army recently claimed it had taken control of Sudan's main oil refinery in Al-Jili. For more on this, our correspondent getting us this report from Lagos.
Sudan is facing severe famine with over 500,000 people at risk due to ongoing conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. In North Darfur, paramilitary shelling killed 7 people at a refugee camp already struggling with severe food shortages. Millions have been displaced and aid access remains severely limited. Despite this, local communities are stepping up with grassroots initiatives, providing food and medical care where international aid falls short. The world is calling for ceasefire and urgent humanitarian action, but with no resolution in sight, Sudan's crisis continues to worsen. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.
Shifting focus for now, a man in Sweden has been convicted for drunk driving a drone. The case is first of its kind in the country. The 55-year-old man in question was found guilty in July of flying a device at a classic car event in a central Swedish town. The man was flying the drone in a temporary no-fly zone. Authorities noticed the drone while flying their own device to monitor the event. Officers tracked the controller of the drone, and after conducting the tests, they found that his bloodstream contained 0.69 parts of alcohol for every 1,000 parts of blood. Under Swedish law, anything above 0.2 parts of alcohol in 1,000 parts of blood is punishable. 1.0 is a serious offence. Drink driving laws are strict in Sweden compared to other parts of Europe. In fact, in the UK, the limit is 0.8. In Spain, France and Belgium, it is 0.5. Romania and Hungary have a zero tolerance policy. The man later denied the charges and in turn blamed a friend who was not present when the police arrived. However, he was fined $2,908 to be paid across 80 days in daily fines of $36.36. It is understood to be the first case in Sweden in which a person has been prosecuted and convicted of drunkenness while flying a drone. The district court president has said it applied the same punishment scale as it would for drunk driving to the drone case. She said it is an aircraft. Even though it is flown by itself, it is controlled by someone down on the ground and can fall from a high height and injure someone. A mountain is no longer just a mountain. In a legal shift, New Zealand has granted personhood to Taranaki Monga, recognizing it as a living entity with rights and protections. Our next report telling you more about how this is not just about law, it's a lot more than that.
Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, the ayes have it.
A new law redefines the relationship between nature and humans. New Zealand has taken the extraordinary step of granting personhood to one of its most iconic landmarks. Its Mount Taranaki now has a legal identity, Taranaki Maunga. The unprecedented move signals a profound reconciliation of indigenous rights with environmental stewardship. The landmark legislation marks a historic victory for the Maori people, whose ancestral connection to the 2,518-meter peak stretches back centuries. Granting personhood to the mountain represents a decisive break from colonial practices that systematically displaced indigenous guardianship.
But let me be really, really clear. Our tupuna never ceded sovereignty over our maunga. No raupatu, no act of government, no colonial decree could ever sever our connection with our maunga. We grew up knowing there was nothing anyone could do to make us any less connected.
The legal framework bestows upon Taranaki Maunga all the powers, duties and protections afforded to human beings under New Zealand law. The recognition serves as a powerful acknowledgement of historical wrongs, addressing the mountain's theft from local Maori communities during colonization. For generations, indigenous voices were silenced in decisions about the mountain's management, while hunting and sports groups wielded significant influence.
I acknowledge traditional Maori practices associated with the mountains were banned, while tourism was promoted. Pests such as possums were introduced and led to destruction of the native forest in some parts.
The recognition also echoes global reverence for sacred mountains. Hundreds of millions revered the Himalayas, the abode of snow, as the source of sacred rivers such as the Ganga, whose life-giving waters have sustained civilizations. Mount Kailash, located in Tibet's remote western region, is considered one of the most sacred mountains in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism and Bon religions. Hindus believe it to be the abode of Lord Shiva, while Buddhists view it as the center of the universe. Similarly, Govardhana Hill in Vrindavan, the holy town in Uttar Pradesh, northern India, is revered for its association with Lord Krishna. As climate change threatens the world's most sacred and fragile landscapes, this decision in New Zealand sets a precedent. Will other nations follow suit?